What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, and to my right on the screen is Ryan Oneil Knight.
Wait, you're on that side. Good to see you, sir. Good to
Right
see
back
you.
at
I know
you.
the mirror effect.
It's the
You
morning.
get used to the mirror effect.
There you go. It's the morning vibe, March 29th. Sunny where I am. I hope it's sunny where you don't know. This is worldwide, so it's dark somewhere.
Agreed.
Right?
That's true.
It's dark somewhere. How was the weekend?
It was, I think it was pretty good. Got to rest a bit, and the missus was off from work, so we got to relax and hang out with the kiddos, making animations. Jasmine's learning how to do, I guess, cartoon animations. So just watching her, it's pretty cool.
Nice. And before we went live, you told us you're house hunting.
Yeah, it's about time to, get out of the parents' basement and get onto our own building. So we'll see where we land, but the market is insane. So
yeah. All the reports I'm hearing and watching, it's a seller's market. It's not a buyer's market.
It's so true.
Oh my gosh.
Hopefully it'll come down a little bit soon.
Yeah, you're even threatening to move closer to where I am, which is unthinkable.
Right.
So for people who don't know the geography of Toronto, Ryan lives, I guess one of the dividing lines, or the main dividing line of Toronto, is Yonge Street, and he lives west of Yonge Street. And everyone who lives west of Yonge Street say, "I'm never going to leave east of Yonge Street." Right. And I said, "It's all right."
Vice versa. Yes.
Yeah, we don't want you because you have to get your passport before you come east of Yonge Street, right? So
please. They're still building the passport office. So I'll come help you.
All right. Well, before we introduce our friend, because this is not, for me, it's not a guest. It's a friend. So if you haven't been paying attention, last week, a big thing happened last week that has been championed and fought for a long time. We have finally, Emancipation Day got approved, a unanimous vote by our House of Commons, which is our main governmental body for all of Canada. And I don't think this is getting enough coverage, especially in Canada.
And Ryan? Probably because people thought that this already happened, or I would assume it's like this should have been done from time. And the fact that it's been worked on for so long, it's like, and with the spotlight on the Black community, I feel like we're getting desensitized to announcements for us, and we should, and that's what this show is about. Things that we should be feeling really great about, we gotta spotlight it and amplify it.
Absolutely. Well, one of the true champions, not only of Emancipation Day being declared a holiday or an important event, August 1st, which that day is, but also one of the champions of African Canadians, Black Canadians I've known, been honored and blessed to know many years, is with us this morning. Dr. Rosemary Sadler is here with us this morning. Hi, Doctor. Should I call you Doctor? Should I call you Rosemary? What should I say? How should I officially?
I think you should call me Rosemary. It's all good.
All right. Well, thank you. How are you this morning?
I'm much better than I was about this time last week.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think let's start with the past before we get to the present. How did you and why did you get involved in this journey?
It's pretty simple, really. I was the president of the Ontario Black History Society, which was an unpaid position. And I conducted much of what I did for the organization out of my home. So this, what people are going through right now was my normal, because I was at home with 3 children. My youngest was a year old at the time, pretty much. Well, anyway, so I was alerted to an international movement to effect August 1st as Emancipation Day, which made infinite sense to me. And because I was doing much of the work of the organization myself personally, I began to have events, very small events, and ultimately was successful in those early months in securing a proclamation which documented, which affirmed the reality that August 1st was Emancipation Day in the city of Toronto and in Metro Toronto. And there was a reception for that, I had a reception in the city of Ottawa because of the proclamation that was effected. And it went to the federal province. We were able to see it go through with a unanimous motion, the first unanimous bill actually in the province of Ontario, Bill 111, and that was effective in 2008. But in the meantime, I had approached various members and parties of the of the federal government. And I've always approached what I have done in a nonpartisan way, because it isn't always the party line, but sometimes there are people within parties who are going to be drawn to something you're doing, or who can find a way to support it for a range of reasons. Anyway, was successful in seeing it go to the House of Commons and go to second reading on 2 separate occasions, and it didn't go through. Then with this current government, I approached again and was able to see it go through to second reading in the Senate through the efforts of Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard. But things changed once more. And because these kinds of initiatives go through often as private members' bills or initiatives, there's very few of them available. Fortunately for me, Majid Jahawari was able to use up or access his private member's bill to introduce this yet again back in the House. And last Monday, the 22nd of March, it went to final reading. And on the 24th of March, it went to the vote, which was unanimous.
Mm-hmm. Wow, Ryan, Rosemary and I've been blessed to know for many years, and we've had a pre-conversation. Ryan, certainly, what sort of questions? What questions do you have for Rosemary?
And I'm inspired based on like you being one of the past presidents of the Ontario Black History Society. But for those that are more, I don't want to say, I'm talking about myself. Like, I'm not a deep history buff. What would you say to those in our community that really don't know a lot about our history, and now hearing about this news, what should excite them about getting this passed?
They should be excited because of a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that this is one more day, one more focused point in the year when the whole country can definitely be talking about Black history, Black concerns, and that's just that in itself is important. It's important for those people who celebrate what we used to call Caravana, because that's the reason that there was a Caravana, particularly not just because of the centennial celebration, but why were people busting out into, into celebration? Part of the reason was because they found out that they were free. So for that kind of a connection. But I think it's also because we know that there was this unfortunate, and I mean, it isn't even unfortunate, that isn't even the right word, but the tragic public execution of George Floyd woke up a lot of people who really were feeling that some of the things that people of African descent were feeling, experiencing, seeing were, not real. That changed that discussion dramatically. And I think that what Emancipation Day, as frankly, Black History Month, really, but it's just more fuel more of an opportunity. If people really don't want to accept that, there's systemic racism, well, this is one more thing that we have to be looking at. We had in this very space, not somewhere else, not south of the border, in this very space, layered well beneath us now, but in this very space was over 200 years of the enslavement of First Nations and people of African descent. And that enslavement, based on the transatlantic slave trade, but the experience of slavery, the ideas that came out of slavery about who and what is a human and who is eligible for full citizenship and full rights and what freedom looks like, that really was one of the incredibly strong focal points of all of that. I think that it also gives us opportunity to consider, how do we develop and maintain what freedom means to us today? Because what happened to George Floyd, and what that, I think, means to so many of us looking at social justice, can happen again if we don't work as a community with allies and white people, because it isn't our issue. It's a racial pandemic, which means we all need to come on board. How do we make sure that these things don't happen again?
Yeah, and it's great that you tied it to Caravana, because I feel the parade and the festival leans too far just to the party, and using like our actual history. So you could actually draw them in with the party and then educate them on our history and why August 1st is so important. But then going beyond just like Emancipation Day, would you push for it being like the whole month similar to Black History Month, where we can dive deeper into why we need to focus on our history?
It took 25 years to get Emancipation Day.
Right.
And I think that it took me a bit less time to secure February as Black History Month. That was a faster turnaround. But
right.
Both of them, because, well, that's a bit of a different story, but it was still something that I was working on, and something that I initiated and proposed with the City of Toronto, in addition, building on what had already been there with the City of Toronto, with the province of Ontario, with every province in the country, and then going to the federal government, where it was championed by Jean Augustine.
Yes, yes.
The idea of Black History Month, it's a month. It was never, ever, ever set up to be the only time you talk about Black history or Black people or Black issues.
So true.
And so if August 1st is commemorated as a day, it doesn't mean that, okay, well, it's August 2nd, let's not talk about issues related to freedom. No, I think that we have these symbolic moments in the year, but they don't have to be the only time, because I'm Black every single day. Every day. I have never, ever had a day when I woke up and I wasn't a Black person. And I say that with pride and sometimes with concern, because my children are Black children. Right. And, our community, we don't get to take a holiday from the issues that impact us by virtue of something we can't change. So I can put on makeup and look a little bit more awake, but I can't do anything about my melanin,
Right.
Rosemary, what kept you and what kept you going through this journey? Because you had the Black History Month journey, you had the Emancipation Day journey. What kept you going during the Emancipation Day journey, though it was a shorter one than Black History Month? What kept you going during this journey?
There have been many journeys. These are two that you know about. There was one commemoration that took me 10 years to effect to have somebody given national historic recognition. There have been many journeys that I have been on to effect change that will have an impact on our community. These are two that you know about that we're talking about today. And I have done this, and I have been involved, and I was president of the Ontario Black History Society for over 22 years, not because I was looking to build up my brand per se, and because I was referring people to my whatevers. I did it because there was a need, and I was intimately familiar with the need that is out there in our community, what impacts us, what has impacted me, what has impacted my parents, what has impacted our community, what has impacted my children. So if we don't do it, I mean, I'm motivated by seeing positive change, and what would if I didn't do it when I had a bit of an opportunity to do so, even though I had no money, even though the funding to the OBHS was cut by 90% at one point in time, but you still have to find the things that you can do with the no resources that you have.
And I was curious around that journey as like running the nonprofit, and we hear that a lot, that organizations don't get the funding that is needed for them to execute the work that is needed. And so I had two questions. One around what would you feel like that next main thing is that we should be focused on that maybe you're working on and we don't know about? And two, how do we bring, because my organization is more around like economic development and entrepreneurship, how do we bring the business sector into your fold to support what you're doing?
I don't know. I mean, I think that this is the moment in time when that should be easy. I mean, right now, corporations should be looking to see what they can do to improve Black people in their ranks. Agencies, boards, and commissions, municipally, provincially, and federally, should be looking to see how they can bring in people of African descent to offer their viewpoint and their expertise. Organizations, not every nonprofit is the same, because you do have to be careful that you're not just funding somebody's ability to, well, you have to look at it carefully. And yes. I think that historically, I know that, bequests, sponsorships, donations, those other kinds of funding, because applying for grants is challenging, and it often means that you have to fit into a particular grant specific task, which may have nothing to do with your mandate or whatever. Yeah.
Rosemary, we didn't get a chance to ask this, so I know we talked offline about this. Describe the moment when the vote went unanimous. Tell us about that moment.
Oh, okay. I was watching on ParlView, and I was watching the vote, and it was. I had my camera up actually because I was going to capture all the no votes. I was ready because I was going to go after those people because it was. I was.
I know. She's talking the truth, folks. She would go after them.
So it was a timed vote, and so I'm watching, and yay, and like they would show 4 people, 4 yays, and the next 4 people, 4 yays. So first they had people stand up in the house, and it's like everybody stood up and they voted yes. It's like, okay, that's great, but there's not that many people actually in the house, so that wasn't any indication, but it was still a good one. Then they showed the 4 people voting from out of the House of Commons, and they kept going through. There kept being 4 people voting yes, and then 1 person did vote no. And I captured that image, and I know who that person is. But
we want to know too.
No, I'm not going to share the name because I need to talk to the person. I want to talk to the person. But
We'll go after them for you too.
Redeeming quality. the person rethought their vote. And at the end, when there's an opportunity to adjust your electronic vote, they changed it to yay. So that made it a unanimous vote. But at a particular point, even with that one person, I realized that this was going to be a majority yes. Right. And I started to cry. I really did tear up. And even I immediately after the vote, I had an interview with CBC, and I could barely talk because it really hit me that it was going through, because it's timed. If it had not been voted on and gone through on the 24th, that would have been it. And it would have had to start, the process would have had to start again. And that would have meant either finding another person who might have the ability to put through a private member's bill. But at this point in the process, that would be highly unlikely. So I just thought, there was a part of me before the vote started. And I thought, I'm never going to see this happen in my lifetime, and then when it was obvious it was happening, it was a really helpful, wonderful feeling. But of course, it's not just having it go through. It's now to see some real steps taken by us and by them to address some of the issues that impact us all.
One additional question, because I know Ryan has some more before we start winding it down. Who was the first person you spoke with after the vote went through?
CBC, a CBC interviewer.
First non-media person.
It was all media. Oh, wow. But it was all media. It was bang, bang, bang. And then I think, it was weird because, of course, it's COVID, right? So it isn't like you can run out in the street and start screaming at people. But it was all COVID. And I texted people.
Okay, who was the first person you text?
I texted my daughter. And then other family members too. But my daughter, because she was aware that it was about to happen, and my son. Yeah, I've got 3 children, but the ones that are in Toronto that are paying attention.
Your daughter did a great video on Instagram about that too. So that was really, really sweet of her.
She was there. I mean, I was still nursing my son. I had to nurse my children for forever. And you that you have to, they're with you, and if you're going out, you have to bring them with you. And so she was there. She knew, my kids knew what I was doing. They were involved in my work. Like I said, COVID, I was working from home. And so your kids are involved, and you drag them, poor things, you drag them to everything you go to, and they, the kids and the toys and the whatever else you could have to drag along.
Ryan, go ahead.
I was just curious. You mentioned a lot, there's a lot of projects that you work on that the media doesn't pick up, the normal, the community doesn't really follow. Who are some of the unsung heroes that helped you on this journey that you might want to shout out and give them a bit of a spotlight?
That's a hard one, because I don't think people appreciate how very few resources there were when I was working on this, and resources, not just being an unpaid person, but also resources in terms of other volunteers. But certainly when I was with the OBHS, I had a group of women who had formerly been part of the Canadian Negro Women's Association, and they were now on the board. And many of them were incredibly supportive, in particular one whose name was Aileen Williams. Another, and she's now deceased, but I know that this would be something that she would have, I'm sure, been very pleased about. There have been other people along the way who've offered support of a different kind. People who sometimes are community workers, staunch community workers, people I know who are involved in a variety of fields, who can offer advice, professional advice based on their experience in those areas. I have made some, I think, great connections with many people in various political parties. Um, and I'd like to think that there have been some people who have been incredibly supportive. Of course, most recently, those people would include, if we're talking about government, those people would include Greg Fergus, Arif Virani, who was my MP, who I went to first with this new government. Greg Fergus, who I met with in Ottawa early on, and he's the MP and also in charge of the Black Caucus. Marco Mendicini, sometimes he was very helpful around some issues. But of course, most importantly, we're talking about Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard,
yeah,
and MP Majid Jahari. I also met with opposition senators. I mean, technically there are no parties in the Senate, but around the time of the second passage of this bill when it was in the Senate, I did approach those who were opposing and was able to secure the support of a senator who was leading that other side, that other perspective, but it wasn't based on Emancipation Day, it was based in other political realities. So I'm really happy about that. And then there have been people like Emancipation Arts and Ngozi Paul, who has had me come to be their keynote speaker a number of years in a row. And last summer issued the Rosemary Sadler Award, which was presented live to Julie Black. Thank you. Because of my efforts in terms of Emancipation Day. So there have been different people that are important for different reasons. And I'd like to think that everybody in their own way has been really, really helpful.
Absolutely. And I was curious because you said after the vote went through, it was media. What's a question that you hope the media would ask? Like, is there a question that they don't ask that you wish they did ask?
There's always a question, but I guess what my sense was that they really wanted to know how I was feeling, because I have been working on this for a very long time. And, you know, they can't know what to ask, because for some of them, it's the first time that they're coming to know this. Like, for example, one of the people who interviewed me was dealing with a section of Ontario, which basically the broadcast would focus on people who are basically from Niagara to Windsor. And she wouldn't have known to ask me about my being the first keynote speaker in Windsor, Ontario, in the company of the U.S. Consul General John Ney in 2008 at the Caboto Banquet Hall, when Windsor was having their first attempt at re-establishing Emancipation Day there. And of course, Emancipation Day had been ended in the 60s because of the concerns about the civil rights, not civil rights, but some of the rioting that was taking place in conjunction with that period of time. And then the place where they were having the celebrations kind of disappeared too. It fell into disrepair. So when they were having this was a big deal. And the U.S. Consul General wanted me to be there with him because we'd worked on other projects in the GTA, and he was fully aware of my involvement with Emancipation Day and wanted me to have that platform. So that reporter wouldn't have known to ask me that.
Well, we're going to be winding it down in just a moment. So, Rosemary, what's next? Because you've always got things on the go. What's the next opportunity?
I'm still looking.
Oh.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I think that there were people. Well, I haven't stopped
I know
advocating.
that.
I haven't stopped advocating. I haven't stopped looking and doing, and I have a number of things that I'm working on because they continue to be important. I think that they're important for. They're not like important like just for me, like important because they make a difference for all of us.
So what is the next step? The vote is done. What is the next step after now the unanimous vote?
Well, I had suggested that there be a commission set up to help to facilitate Emancipation Day celebrations across the country. It will be interesting. I'll be having further conversations with people to see how and what that might look like. I have two meetings today with two different MPs where I suspect we will be talking about what might be possible. I think that, one of the things, Ryan, you asked earlier, what did the reporters want to know? And they want to know, how do we celebrate it? Well, it isn't just a party, and
Exactly.
I mean, and party, but I like parties, parties are good. And so
I've seen Rosemary throw it down once in a while. So, but see.
But it is an opportunity to do for other things as well. And I think that that's hopefully what we can get into. Yeah.
Well,
And sorry, real quick, for those that are grant writers, the Federal Heritage Grant allows you to do event grants. So 18 weeks out, August 1st, there's more than 18 weeks. So those that can write grants, and I'm talking to myself and my team, start putting in your grant for Emancipation Day type events and for that month, because if you get it in now, you'll probably get funding for it. So just keep in mind.
And if you want to invite me to come out, then you'll have something.
There
I'll
you
get paid
go.
for a chance, right?
100%. Yes,
I don't
exactly.
think. Yeah, I don't think there's a better individual in this country to speak at an Emancipation Day event.
No, actually, can we lock that in? Listen.
Okay, well that's offline now.
Nah,
Easy
man,
now.
listen, on record.
I like that. Live
I like that you're suggesting that there should be events everywhere. I mean, like Black History Month. I mean, sometimes it's so much. Like it's just so much, and just it's a lot, which is a good thing. But wouldn't it be great if there were some really wonderful events and they were spread out, and everybody wasn't just doing something like it's an Emancipation Day just before, an Emancipation Day during and after. Like that would be amazing too. It doesn't all have to happen at exactly the same moment in time, so that instead of having a really helpful program, we have people trying to weigh which thing they can go to. Even on Zoom, there's only so many things you can do.
Yes.
True. Well, looking forward to Emancipation Day now next year. And looking forward to have Rosemary speaking in multiple locations next year for Emancipation Day. And it'll be so nice to mark that now on a calendar.
Well, it will be. And for a lot of people, sorry, somebody asked, one thing that somebody asked me, is it a holiday now? Well, it's already a holiday. It doesn't have to be because most people have, well, it is and it isn't. Most people have the long weekend in August and it's called different things.
Simcoe Day in Ontario.
Exactly. And so in a sense, it's already a holiday, although the actual day of August 1st may or may not be a holiday. And so that is something that, that might take another 25 years. But I think that, at least to be able to combine, which I have done in the past, for example, Simcoe Day with Emancipation Day, why not? Or to bring the focus solely on Emancipation Day.
Ryan, any final words before we have Rosemary get ready for all these more interviews?
No, just the last thing is around, I really feel like we can take it on our shoulders to make sure that the business community is supporting this type of work that the nonprofits that are working on, especially our Black history. The work that you're doing is so important that I feel like we should be working on bringing more supporters to the table. So if that's something that I can take away to work on, and anything that you're working on in the future to make sure that the business community has your back, I would love to take that challenge on.
Well, I'm not with that organization any longer, but I am continue to do work. I have the Black Canadian Network, which is a vetted social media site, and maybe I might do more with that.
Oh.
I'm also doing other things as well. Yeah.
So, Rosemary, if people want to contact you, what is the best means for them to contact you?
I have a website, about.me/Rosemary Sadler, Rosemary Sadlier, or my email is my name, rosemary.sadler@gmail.com.
And
thank you. Thank you.
No problem. There's
Our
Rosemary,
pleasure.
there's her email address, Rosemary. As always, I like to say, whenever we get together, it always inspires me. Won't get too much into detail, but if people watch,
I know he's going to talk about Burger King and that coffee.
yes, I'm going to do it right now. Okay, so I'm not going to get deep into it, but many years ago, a very important conversation in my journey was after Rosemary was OBHS at that time, Ontario Black History Society, and we went and had a very deep and long and meaningful and memorable conversation about various things down at a Burger King down at the Toronto lakefront. And both of us still remember that conversation because it was both meaningful for both our lives. So, Rosemary, I'd just like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will be doing for not only Black Canadians, but Blacks around the world.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor and true pleasure. And you
Absolutely.
always have
Thank you.
home here whenever you want to come on.
Thank you.
And most importantly, remember to give yourself grace.
Thank you.
Thank you
And
so
too.
much.
Thank you so much for doing this. And thank you both. It was a great interview.
Thank you so
Our
much.
pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, folks, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Wow, that was outstanding. Really,
Well,
really.
I
What a
feel
great way
like-
to start the week.
Absolutely. And there's more to be done, that if there was more support, I feel like it wouldn't take 25 years. So the next project, let's get on it for people like Rosemary Sadler, other prominent great leaders in our community that are doing the great work and the grassroots work. We have to amplify their efforts. So let's get it done, people.
Yes, let's stop looking at the roots and let's grow the grass, right?
Yeah, no, and let's stop watching the grass grow. Let's water the grass and till the soil and fertilize everything. Let's get
All
in it.
right. What do you have on store for the rest of the week?
Oh boy, the rest of the week is actually light. I need to do a lot of admin work. So it was funny, I was being interviewed yesterday and I was going through the list of projects that ACBN is working on. Not even Ryan Knight, so detailing nights and other things I'm working on. Just ACBN, there's 12. So we need
Light
to really
week.
focus.
All right. Light week. Okay.
So get it
All
done.
right. Well, folks, again, thanks for sharing with us this morning. A lot of great things. Divine Right, thank you for watching from the Virginia, DC area. She says here, I remember those days of dragging everything but the kids to sing along when
On
my
your
son
back.
was younger. But the work has to be done, even with a kid on your hip. She got
100%.
absolutely. I also want to thank Dr. Tachi watching from St. Petersburg, Florida, and others. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it. If you want to contribute to the program, if you have a guest, would you like to be a guest? Just best thing to do is just email me, Dr. Vibe, DRVIBE at thedrvibeshow.com, and we will see if we can get you on. We are back this Friday at 9 a.m. with another Black Canadian lady champion. And even though International Women's Month is done, we're going to make sure this lady gets on. Sylvia Paris.
Yes.
Will be joining us from the east, from Nova Scotia, an area that a lot of people ignore when it comes to Black Canadians. But she's going to be with us. She is confirmed. She's going to be ready to go. And we are looking forward to it. So we want to wish everyone a great week. As always, I like to say, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And remember to give yourselves grace. Ryan, make it an amazing week.
Appreciate that. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.